Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Blazer Victory Podcast, episode number 79. This is your co-host, John Duncan, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Steve Irvine. And, Steve, it's time to talk about the big dance as UAB will face off against the Houston Cougars Friday night at 8:20 p.m. Central Time. And it's like a good old school Conference USA matchup between these two schools, right?
Yeah, playing an old friend, and in a place that's been a while since you've been there. So that's pretty cool. I mean, I was happy when I saw the pairing just because of that, just because it's a lot of memories there, against this team, and it's a really good team. I mean, it's not. It's certainly I wasn't happy on that from that point of view,
Right.
but I think that it's going to be fun. It's fun to rekindle that old rivalry, and let's see what happens.
Definitely, yeah, and I'll be honest too. Yeah, I was excited to see the matchup pop up when they did the bracket reveal. And for those that don't know, UAB did come in at a 12 seed, and Steve, that's kind of exactly what we predicted the last episode. We really thought that UAB was going to come in at a 12, and that's what they got. And the good thing about the 5 versus 12 matchup is, I feel like every year, this almost every year in the NCAA tournament, a 12 beats a 5. So I'm not saying that this is impossible. Houston, I mean, this was a team. This is a darn good team. I mean, you look at the record, 29-5, and obviously they're a 5 seed. This is a team that just went to the Final Four last season. So, I mean, the UAB is going to have a lot of work to do to have a shot at beating Houston. But I'm telling you, Steve, I don't know if you feel the same, but I think it's doable. Now, I'm not going to, say that it's, I'm definitely saying UAB is going to win, but it's doable. Like, this Houston team, they're not perfect when you look at their overall season's work in the AAC conference.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's doable. I also think it's doable that they could find a way to get back in the Final Four. I mean,
Yeah, that's true.
I think it's one of those things because the way they play defense, and certainly if they had Marcus Sasser and Tremont Mark, they would have a better chance of advancing. I mean, that's a good team a really good team with those two guys
Right.
added to what they have. But I think with the way they play defense, and they're tough, and they're tough minded, and they've beat some good teams, and playing really well right now. I mean, I could see them going really deep, but I also could see UAB finding a way to win this game. I mean, I think it's
Mm-hmm.
one of those games. I mean, I really do think it's one of those games. It's just a matter of who comes out and plays on Friday night and plays their game, and things like foul trouble, and
Yes.
and just way guys are shooting, just different, mistakes, turnovers. I mean, just all of that's going to play into this. But it's certainly one that, and it's funny to say that hey, I could see UAB beating them, but hey, I could see them going to the Final Four. I mean, that's kind of a weird, it's kind of a weird thing to say, but I mean, I think it's possible. I mean, I think it's possible either way.
Yeah, no doubt. And I'm glad you mentioned those two players for Houston. We'll go ahead and discuss them right now. Marcus Sasser and Tremont Mark, two of Houston's top players, but they've been out since January. And they unfortunately for Houston, two of their top guys got hurt early on in the season, and they, have missed the entire season. And that really kind of hurt Houston. I mean, they've still got some other guys that have stepped up. And we'll talk about a couple of those guys, but yeah, those that don't know, yeah, two of Houston's best players, Mark and Sasser, are out for the year, so UAB won't have to worry about facing either one of those guys. And and that's kind of it's hard to say Houston struggled this year because I mean they've really dominated the AAC other than losing to Memphis twice. But I mean we'll talk about that in a few minutes too. But I don't know, like they've pretty much blown out every team that they were supposed to blow out. And, the statistics love Houston. You look at Ken Palm, Bertorvik, all these sites like love Houston. Like you look at Ken Palm, I believe Ken Palm had them ranked number 5 in his stats. And the reason why, these statisticians love Houston is that they're a very efficient team when it comes to, offense and defense. I mean, you look at their stats, and that pretty much pops off. Scoring 80 plus a game, pretty much. Defensively playing extremely well. But this team does have some weaknesses. And I guess let's go ahead and get into some of those weaknesses. And some of those weaknesses, the first one that pops off, this is a terrible free throw shooting team. Like, you look at some of this, stats. I believe I can't remember where I got this from, but it looks like they're ranked in the 300s when it comes to free throw shooting. So
they are.
So if that's something that UAB can do, like, UAB does get into foul trouble sometimes, but if we can put them on the line and force them to hit their free throws, that's one of the three things I think UAB will have to do to, come out of here with the win. Any quick thoughts on that, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in this tournament, I mean, obviously in any big game, as we've seen, poor free throw shooting can cost you. I mean, it can cost you a game. I mean, just all you got to do is think back to North Texas, at Bartow Arena for that, and for us, for our point of view. But I think it's it's a factor, but I don't know that's hurt them a lot. They're 29-5, and I think a lot of times when you're doing other things, when you play defense like they play defense for the most part, I mean, they've had a few games where they didn't play well defensively, but you're in every game, I mean, you put yourself in position to win every game. Would you like to shoot free throws better than they're shooting them? Absolutely you would. But I don't know that that's as big a factor as some other things. I mean, you still got, Kyler Edwards shoots 71%.
Yeah.
Fabian White shoots 70%. Taze Moore shoots 75%. You have some guys that if you foul the wrong guy in the wrong, like if you're fouled at the end of the game, for example, trying to stay in it, if you foul the wrong guy, they're not that bad, I mean, they're really not. And, but as a team, they haven't shot well, shot the free throw well. And yes, that could cost them a game, but you got to put yourself in position for that to cost them the game too. So,
yeah,
I mean, they do so many other things well that, and maybe I'm totally wrong in this, that I don't find that to be that big of a factor.
Okay.
Because they do so many things well. And as the deeper they go in the tournament, if they do, then yes, it could end up being a factor. But you got to turn that into a factor, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. Now I will say, two of the other points that just doing research and watching some highlights of this season for Houston that I think UAB is going to have to do in order to have a chance in this 12-5 matchup is the first thing, you've got to force turnovers. You look at a couple of Houston's losses in this season, and you, in particular, look at those two losses that they've had against Memphis. In both of those games, Steve, the first game they turned it over 19 times, and the second time they turned it over 20 times in both of those ball games. And I mentioned earlier about Houston being really efficient on the offensive side of the ball, which they are. But if you can force them into some turnovers, which UAB and Quan Jackson and the team, they've shown that they can do that this season, you can give your chance. You can give yourselves, a shot in this ball game. So that's one of the. That's the second thing I've noticed. The third thing is that, and again, looking in particular at those two Memphis games, Memphis was able to hit 3-point shots. And it looks like the last time they played, Memphis was right around 45% shooting the 46.7% actually. I got it pulled up now. They were able to hit 3-point shots. So if you're able to force a lot of turnover, or if you're able to force Houston into some turnovers, maybe, run the full court press, which UAB has done all season, force them into some to speed up things, and you're able to knock down 3-point shots, which UAB, knock on wood, has been able to do recently, especially these last 2 weeks, then I think UAB really has a shot in this game. And I know if we have any Houston fans listening, they're probably rolling their eyes, but I mean, it's doable, Steve.
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, you can roll your eyes all you want. Iowa State in 2015, they were rolling their eyes when anybody.
There you go.
I mean, so that's what this tournament is all about. Would UAB win a 7-game series against Houston? Probably not.
No, yeah.
But it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. You got one game. You come out, you play you play well, and and you can win this game. And I think that's that's the key to this. It really doesn't matter what anybody thinks or whether they roll their eyes or whatever. If you come out and play your game, UAB comes out and plays their game, like you said, hit threes, plays smart, avoids the turnovers, creates turnovers,
Yes.
Stays relatively out of foul trouble, rebounds well. I mean, I think that's the one thing, I think, Houston rebounds the ball well, and you got to
They
keep them
do.
off the offensive glass now. I mean, and
Hey, Fabian White's tough, man. He's
always
tough.
tough, so is Josh Carlton. I mean,
Yeah.
so you got to keep them off the offensive glass, um, and so those are all keys. But if you do it, I mean, if you do those things, you have a chance. But I mean, talking about the turnovers too with Houston, though, the one thing that I like about them is when you're talking about turnovers, they struggle against Memphis, but look at Jamal Shed, who's been their point guard, since with Sasser out. He has 197 assists and 66 turnovers. That's a pretty good ratio right there. Kyler Edwards, another ball handler for him, that's the off guard. He's got 100 assists and 50 turnovers. That's 2-to-1. That's a pretty good ratio. So those guys really take care of the ball well, so you're gonna have to go out and create those with them. They're not gonna give them to you, So,
Right.
So there is that. But I mean, I think those are good points that you made. I mean, I think that's some things that you could try to exploit. One thing I like about them though is you look at losing those two guys. Okay, you're losing their leading scorer. And then Tremont Mark was, one of their better shooters. You thinking, well, how do you overcome that? Well, you overcome it by they got four guys in double figures that are playing. The four guys are playing, not the two. Because Mark and Sasser are also were in double figures. So you got four guys that are in double figures, and then you got the point guard is averaging. Shed is averaging 9.4. A game. So you got five guys in double figures. So that's basically, the way that you kind of compensate, you get scoring from everybody. And,
Right.
And you played great defense. That always helps too. But I mean, it's a solid team, but I like where UAB is not only playing. I mean, obviously they played really well in the tournament and found ways to win. But I like where they are mentally. I think there's, Jelly said it in his post game TV interview that basically we're coming after you.
Right.
And they've got that mentality. They're not going to be overwhelmed by in the moment. That doesn't mean there's not going to be nerves and they're not going to. They could struggle early. I mean, because it's easy to say, hey, we're not going to be overwhelmed by this, but then you get out there. And for first time for I think everybody. I mean, I'm not sure anybody's played in this tournament for UAB. I have to look closer.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah.
But so it's the first time for everybody playing a team that's fresh off a Final Four. Yeah. So it's easy to say you're not going to be overwhelmed by it, but I don't think they are. Eventually, we'll see what happens when it come out, but they are, UAB is a tough-minded, loose, confident, cocky, whatever you want to call it, team, and which is good. And by cocky, I mean a good cocky. And Andy Kennedy's the same way. I mean, they got, he's the same way. He's a confident person, and so I don't think they're going to be overwhelmed by the moment. And if they are, they're going to have to just endure it and fight through it and keep playing. But I just don't see that happen. Now, we still don't know, exactly about what's going on with Trey Jemisen's knee, and we really probably won't know until game time. And I think he'll be fine, but I don't know. And and so just kind of have to come out ready. And hey, the bottom line is it's just good to be there. And
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, and you can't take that mentality. I don't think the players are taking that mentality. But hey, we're just happy to be here because there's two. That's the one thing too about UAB I like is these guys this is a veteran team. Now it's not a veteran team necessarily that from UAB playing at UAB, but these are a bunch of 4th and 5th year guys, 6 years in some cases. So these are this is a mature team, and even though they haven't been to this point, they're still a mature team, and I like that. I mean, I like that going in. So, we'll see. I mean, it's going to be fun. I wish it was a little closer for
Me
some
too.
people to get to,
Me
but
too.
if you can get there, and if not, then they're going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
Right. And real quick though, like I said earlier, I'm sure we've got a couple of Houston folks listening to the pod. As I mentioned, Memphis was able to beat them 2 out of 3 times this season. I do want to bring up the last matchup, and it kind of just furthers my point from earlier, Steve, that in the AAC championship game, Houston beat Memphis 71-53, but in that game, Houston only turned the ball over 9 times, as opposed to that 20 times earlier. And also Memphis 3-point shooting 1 of 10 for 10%. So I just think that's the key. And I know you can say that every game, Steve, make your threes, get the rebound, all you can say that for every game. But I really think in this game, if UAB shoots the 3-point well and forces Houston into 15, ish turnovers, it's going to be hard. But if they can do that, then I really do like UAB's chances of, at least making this game a close game and maybe having a shot at the end to get the upset. Now, what scares me too, though, Steve, is that I've seen a lot of people like bracketologists and people, on CBS and other networks saying that they like this 12-5, UAB of being that upset. So I don't know if I like a lot of people talking about that. That kind of makes me nervous heading in to this game. But I really do think UAB has a legit chance at trying to get the upset this Friday night.
Yeah, I think it's possible. It's certainly possible. I don't, I don't know picking a bracket. If I were to pick a bracket right now, I don't know. I don't know who I'd pick. You pick with your heart or your head. I mean, right now. You pick with your head. You pick Houston. I mean, and that's the one great thing about this tournament is you can beforehand you can talk all you want. You can say, oh well, this 12 seed is I think they have a chance to beat this team, and say they don't. Well, it's forgotten after another round. You know what you said. I mean, just kind of goes into the next round, and you sort of forget what you say beforehand. I mean, I think on paper, if UAB does what they're capable of, and Houston doesn't play well, certainly. And even if they play well, if UAB, I mean, I think the key to any game, I mean, you talk about the threes and turnovers and whatever, but to me, the key to any big game like this is if you do what you do well.
Yep.
If you whatever that may be, if you're a great 3-point shooting team, or if that's what you rely on, if you do that well, you're okay. You're going to be okay. But if you're a pounding inside, you've got a big post player, or some guys inside, or guys that can get downhill and get to the basket, and you do that well, then you have a chance. You got to do what you do well in games like this, and whatever that may be. And for UAB, part of that is hitting threes. I mean, when they're playing well, they're having there's 2 or 3 guys, obviously Jelly and Ertl, hitting threes.
Right.
But also I think when UAB is playing well, they're creating turnovers and not having their own turnovers.
That's another thing.
Not turn the ball over when they struggle. I thought there was times, where there was the last 2 games of that tournament. I thought turnovers were very costly. And they found ways to win. Now, don't get me wrong, but I just they just seemed hurried up at times, and let teams come back or hang in. Even in the first game, they let FAU come back a little bit, and when with just being in a hurry, and so when UAB's defensively is forcing turnovers and taking care of the basketball and hitting threes, or at least certainly timely threes, that's a pretty good basketball team now.
Definitely.
I mean, that's a pretty good basketball team. And I think also rebounding is going to be a huge factor in this game. If they can, if Buffin and Trey Jemison can stay out of foul trouble and really rebound the ball well, and have other guys come and rebound well. Quan Jackson's was a rebounding maniac in that tournament. And
Yeah.
if he hits the boards, I mean, Jelly had six rebounds in the championship game. So you got, they're going to have to, everybody's going to have to, hit the boards there, and we'll see. I mean, it's again, the fun thing is they're there. We get to pay attention to the tournament in a different way than we have since 2015, which is a good thing. I mean, you always pay attention and always watch the tournament, but it sure is a lot better feeling when that thing's starting with your team in it.
Right. And one more quick thing, just looking at my notes for this game, Steve, that I just wanted to bring up is you look at Ken Palm, at his adjusted tempo ratings for each team. Houston is ranked 333rd. So now it's not, but North Texas is ranked 358. Like, I think that's dead last in the tempo. But we knew that when we played North Texas. But Houston, they score a lot more points than North Texas. So expect Houston to take their time in the shot clock, kind of like North Texas. But Houston, they're going to score a lot more points than North Texas did, especially in that semifinal North Texas had against La Tech.
Oh golly, that was so bad. But but that goes back to playing your game.
That's right.
Doing what you do well. I mean, when you can create your own your own pace, or get the game at your own pace, or get the team that in a pace they're not comfortable with, and then you win games. And I go back to, and I hate to bring up an Alabama thing, but this is just kind of was one of the things that I'll never forget. Is when I was living out in California, and when Loyola Marymount was going through the Hank Gathers, and they had that tournament run, was so sensational, and they played Alabama, and they had a Loyola Marymount would try to bait you into playing that up and thing game, and they did most of the time, and I'll never forget, like I might have been the first possession or second possession, real early in the game. Alabama had a breakout, and they had a 3-on-1, and whoever the player was stopped and pulled the ball out and waited for everybody to get down court. And then I was watching with some buddies, and I said, they got a chance to win this game because of that, because they have this, because you're trying to get your own tempo. And that's just an example I always remember. And again, I hate to bring up that team, but I mean, that's just something I always remember. And you've seen there's been example after example of that of teams. North Texas is a great example. I mean, they get you in their tempo. That's why they won. That's why they won games, and that's why they won a championship. Regular season championship, because they got you in their own tempo. And so again, that goes back to doing what you do, and not trying to get out of what you do in a big game like this. When you try to get out of what you do, that's like a team that doesn't shoot to three well, but they're getting a lot of threes. And it's kind of like what Louisiana Tech did the other night. They weren't shooting threes, but they kept shooting them because, they were there. I was open. Yeah, but but it's not a good shot.
Right.
And hey, I will say, like Willis was 0 for 9, and he's a good 3-point shooter, and he kept shooting, but I understand that it's easy to get into that mentality because your shooters want to shoot, but sometimes you can't step out of either who you are or what's not going well. Or step into what's not going well that day. You got to just adjust. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I hope that UAB comes out shooting the three well. And I hope they come out taking care of the basketball, and then we'll see what happens from there.
Definitely agreed, Steve. And again, this game is going to be Friday night at 8:20 p.m. Central Time. It will be televised on TNT. Now, the winner of this game will get the winner of Illinois and Chattanooga. And I'm telling you, man, I know Illinois is good, but Chattanooga, that's another good, quote-unquote, mid-major team, out of the SoCon League with Samford. I watched a few of their games this year, and they're really good. So actually, it wouldn't surprise me if either UAB upsets Houston or Chattanooga upsets Illinois in the first round. Hopefully it'll be UAB. But again, hey, like Steve mentioned earlier, we're just glad to be talking UAB in the big dance for the first time in 7 seasons. So definitely can't wait to see what happens Friday night against Houston. And Steve and I will stay up late Friday night again and try to get you guys, an instant reaction to that game. And let's just go from there and see what happens. But Steve, you got anything else before we wrap this up, bud?
No, no, other than it's good to be here. That's about it. It's good to be part of this, like we've said, and let's go play. Looking forward to it. I know that it's going to be a fun week. That's the one thing I guess I want to bring up is I've covered a lot of these tournaments over the years, and it's just you just see the players. It's just such a great experience for the players. Even the ones that have been through it. You can see ones that have been through it. They're fourth year seniors and they've been through it all 4 years. For some of these teams, and it's still a special. Each tournament is its own special thing, and so that's what's fun to watch, and not just the first round upsets that are you'll remember forever, but just even the teams, like I say, even the teams that have a bunch of veterans that have been there a bunch are still like school kids, school kids on Christmas when this tournament starts. So that's what's so fun for UAB to be a part of this, and you could just see the smile on the players' faces the other day, and then yesterday, and then going forward, it's just a great experience.
Definitely. Well, all right, guys, we'll be back late Friday night to recap what happens in this game against Houston. But as always, thank you for listening, and go Blazers.